Hi everyone. My name is Stephen Hales. I'm the head of department of UCL Computer Science, and I'd like to welcome you to our Open Day. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to talk to you, to answer your questions, to tell you something about who we are and what we do. This session is being recorded. You will be muted, and you can ask questions using the Q&A button down the bottom. We will have a Q&A session towards the end where some of the questions that you've posed will be read out and we'll answer them live. But in the meantime, as you write questions, we'll answer them. You can upvote them. We'll answer them by typing too. So what you may see is people sort of looking slightly distracted, but what they're actually doing is typing answers to your questions. The way this is going to work is we're going to give a series of presentations covering a range of topics, and I'm going to start with a general intro, and then we'll move into that Q&A session. So if you want, click on the real-time captions for yourself for subtitles here. So the first thing I want to say is basically computer science lies at the heart of just about everything we do. The way we work, the way we play, the way we socialize. Many subjects now, many academic subjects are using computers, using AI increasingly actually, and worrying about those things too, about what appropriate uses are. The power of computer science is immeasurable. And the truth is we're in the middle of a revolution here. So computing has only been around for a relatively short period, and actually there is still a long way to go. And our invitation to you is come and join us and help build that future. UCL Computer Science, so let me say something about UCL to start with. So UCL is a large university, one of the largest campus universities around. It was founded in 1826 as a university for all. So it was the first to admit students of any race or religion. And later than 1826, unfortunately, we were the first to admit women on equal terms to men too. And it says here, a pioneering tradition in higher education. What that means is the shape of modern universities has largely been determined by developments, disruptive thinking at UCL. So we were the first to have professors in law and medicine and architecture and chemistry and Egyptology and a range of other subjects that you would think are just a normal part of a university education these days. At the bottom of this slide, you can see the Bloomsbury campus. So this is in central London. And we're looking towards the River Thames there. And most of our activities are based around that campus. But we have recently opened a new campus on the Olympic Park in the east of London. And that's home to a robotics and AI MSc and an undergraduate program, an MSc in systems engineering for the Internet of Things, and an MSc that's been running on the Olympic Park for some years in disability design and innovation. One of the things you find about UCL, and this is encompassed in the East Vision, is that we're a multi-faculty university and we are very interdisciplinary. It is easy to cross disciplines in research. It's easy for us to ask big questions that require input from multiple people from different disciplines in order to answer those questions. So UCL East was designed as a campus to facilitate that sort of interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary working, and actually has a range of degree programs there that do that. And also on the site are a range of cultural activities, and we have some relationships with those too. So the University of the Arts London, London College of Fashion, is there, the BBC are there, Sadler's Wells Ballet are there, and so on. UCL as a whole is ranked the second university in the UK for research strength. So every 7 years or so, there's a research excellence framework evaluation of all UK universities, and we rank second for research strength in the last one. We have our fair cohort of Nobel Prize winners over the years, and we're around the world's top 10. We're always in the world's top 10. We've been in the world's top 10 for the last decade and more. This year we happen to be 9th. Other years we've been slightly higher than that, but we're always in that top 10. As I said, UCL is quite a big university, so we've got more than 50,000 students. And this year it was voted University of the Year in the Good University Guide. Now, for the UCL Department of Computer Science, I joined UCL CS over 30 years ago when it was a tiny department with about 20 academics, largely researching networking in the internet at that point in time. It was the home of the European internet. As the subject has grown and reached into other aspects of life, other aspects of academic endeavour, the Department of Computer Science has grown too. And so we're now around about 130 academics with a very wide range of interests. And our teaching is driven by our research. So at postgraduate level, certainly. So a lot of our MScs map onto the strong foundational research base we've got and the strong applied research base that we have too. And some of them are computer science focused and some of them are interdisciplinary. But our aim is always to deliver real impact, and people graduating from our courses can be expected to be the leaders of the computer revolution into the future. We are also, as a department, ranked second in the UK for research power, with the first in England. And another factor within the department is we have excellent relationships and very extensive relationships with industry. So some of it very large industry like Google and Microsoft and Facebook and Intel and co. And some of it SMEs. But we also have relationships into other external partners. So hospitals, the finance institutions, broader industry too. A lot of what the department does is interdisciplinary research, but that is built on disciplinary depth. It is something that we build on top of the excellence of the foundational research that we do. Here's an example of just that, actually. So this is a very recent announcement. We have just announced a new AI hub that's been funded by the UK government in generative AI, generative models, which is led out of computer science, out of the AI Centre by Professor David Barber. UCL as a whole has another hub in AI for healthcare as well, led out of another department. But as I've said before, we interact across departments. We will expect to continue to do so. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavour of who we are. You know, we have found strong research. Our postgraduate programs reflect that research. And if you come to UCL, you will be taught by some of the world's leading experts in those areas. So now I'm going to hand over to Sharon to talk about careers.
Okay, everyone, welcome to today's event. So as Stephen said, I'm Sharon and I'm the careers consultant for the engineering faculty, and computer science sits under the engineering faculty. So welcome. So UCL Careers, we've got about 65 to 70 careers consultants within the whole of UCL. And we're a team of experienced career professionals, and we're dedicated to helping you find your future. So we do that through supporting you, and we do that through events, through workshops and one-to-one guidance services. And you'll see there on the screen, there is a QR code that you can take a little picture of if you want to find out more about our careers guide there. So I'm sure some of you that are sort of thinking about, doing an MSc in computer science might have some of the questions that you see there on the screen going through your mind. So I'm going to have a look at these for you today. So we're going to look at what do UCL computer science graduates go on to do, and how we're going to support you to achieve your career goals through the career service. So as you can see here, these stats really do show that our computer science MCS graduates do really well and are sought after out there in the marketplace. So 95.6% go on to do highly skilled work or go on to further study. And you can see there the median salary and the mean salary. And as you probably would expect, we've got the top 3 sectors where graduates are employed. So that's IT and technology at 34.4%, down to manufacturing at 7.5%. All of this data is publicly available. It's actually on our website. If you Google what do UCL computer science graduates go on to do, this information will come up for you. So what jobs do they go on to do? So the top 6 job titles are programmers and software, and then we've got down to management consultants and business analysis at 3%. And where do these graduates go on to work? So we'll just have a look at where they go on to work now. So here are sort of the top employers, as you can see. So we've got, the big multinationals, EY, Amazon, UBS Investment Bank. That's just to name just a few. But what this doesn't show also is where some of our students go on to work into smaller corporations and also startups as well. So whilst you're at UCL and for 3 years after you leave UCL, you still have career support from our team. And how we do that is we offer one-to-one career guidance. So what that means is it's an opportunity for you to explore any career questions that you may have, from you're not sure what it is that you'd like to do, to maybe having an idea and not sure actually how to make it happen, how to get there. And we're there to support you through that. We also have CV and application and interview practice sessions that fall under the umbrella of the service. And we also have another part of the service called career management skills. So this is looking at how to make career decisions, really, and looking at networking and effectively in person and online. And also to help you to write impactful applications so that when you go out into the workplace, you're going to be obviously more successful at applying for and being good at interviews, etc. Also, we have we have workshops around as well discussing disabilities with an employer. And also we have a vacancy board. So the vacancy board has a range of jobs and sectors and locations. So we have, opportunities on there as well. And also we have part-time work and internships and placements and graduate jobs as well. So as I said, I'm particularly responsible for the engineering faculty, but the career service spans the whole of UCL. And so there is Career Essentials, which are talks for all students. These happen every lunchtime, and they're led by consultants like myself or my colleagues. And you can see some examples, types of talks that we've run in the past. So things like an introduction to the graduate job market, your future and how to work towards it, and also things like succeeding at interviews and using social media with impact. It's just been some of the talks that we've had recently. We also have our own UCL Careers YouTube channel, which has lots and lots of information and resources, tips and techniques, all around any sort of ideas around careers, career topics. And that's available for all students as well. So for those of you who are on the call who are international, You're also obviously supported at UCL, but we are a global university, so we do value and support our diverse global student population. And we provide support in the career service for finding global jobs and global study and careers within that. We also have got online resources too for exploring working globally. And we also have data on which employers have previously sponsored visas to work in the UK. So that can help you to narrow down where you might find that support and find the visas for work. And we also have China-specific career fairs and events. And just for some of you, just in case any of you have any questions around sort of visas and things like that, I've also put a link on there on the screen around UK CISA. It's quite a complicated process, visas, so I would refer you to that resource there if you do have any questions around visas. So as I said earlier, we have obviously careers workshops for all students, but under engineering, we have specific career events for the engineering faculty. And there's a QR code there if you wish to look at what happened last term and also what's coming up in the next 2 terms. And here are some examples of some career-led events that happened last term. So as you can see there, we've got careers in finance and technology, going down to careers in data science and machine learning. So for example, we had a coding masterclass with UCL alumni, and we also run events like a day in the life of, so you can get an idea of what it's like to actually be, for example, in this one, a cloud engineer at GFT Technologies. We also have panel discussions with Code First Girls and also careers in research as well. So if you're interested in that, there's panel discussions with UCL researchers and fellows. Again, these are specific engineering events that took place last term. So for example, we've got one on there about how to kind of sell your MSc, make it your postgraduate advantage. How do you do that? So specific events around that you can see that was under the engineering umbrella. And we also have insight panels. So this is where students can find out more about that industry and learn how to get into that field. And these are lots of Q&A events with networking at the end. They're a great way to sort of find out more about careers in that area and also get a chance to network with people who work in that field. So in the autumn term, we have sort of career fairs as well. Again, it's another chance for you to meet employers, and it's a place for you to, to ask your questions, get a feel for the sector, find out about any pain points in particular that those sectors may be having, that you can think about how you might place yourself in the future for a career or a job in those areas. And we have talks and workshops. So, some of these are by leading graduate recruiters. There's a series of panel-based question and answer sessions here, or we have more interactive and activity-based workshops that help you more about and understand more about the range of key skills and employers and what they're looking for when they're recruiting students and graduates. So we've also got social media channels. If you'd like to follow us, you can find out more. So there we've got the QR code for Instagram, where we've got latest events that are taking place, vacancies and next steps for, give people ideas and inspiration about what they can do after finishing their studies. And we've also got the usual social media channels, so Facebook, Twitter, etc. And also we have our own UCL Careers website that you can also find out more information on there. Oh, I think it's Carolyn now. Sorry, over to Carolyn.
Thank you. So, yes, thank you, Sharon. So, yes, my name's Carolyn Phelan, and I'm here to talk about our industry exchange network, which is the program with which we align students with corporate or commercial organizations in order to sort of complete some of their project work. So as I say, it's Industry Exchange Network. We call it IXN. It's been operating for the undergraduates for a long time now. I say over 10 years old. I think it's probably nearer 15. It has a number of levels. And as postgraduate students, you would be taking part in the highest level, which is IXN Innovation. And what's that's really meant to capture is that after you have done your 2 terms of taught modules, it then gives you allows you to have the opportunity to really apply some of the skills that we've taught you in industry, and potentially, you know, research something new, come up with something new that's interesting for yourselves, but also potentially useful for the companies as well. And we find that there's quite a lot of appetite from students quite often to do something that is relevant in industry and to have that experience. So it's quite an important part of your program is the project. It usually takes place over 3 months over the summer. It's not always the case. I think there's a couple of exceptions where some programs start their projects in January. Again, it's really important that you sort of have a look at your individual programs on their websites. All the details will be included on there. But it's about 3 months full-time work over the summer. Once you've completed your taught modules and your assessments, you will then be working full-time on research. And what we're trying to do, as we say, is have the opportunity to do this project with an industrial partner. This is available on most programs. I think there are, again, a couple of exceptions. And again, you'll just, you know, make sure if this is something you're interested in, do check the web page to make sure that this is part of the program that you're applying to. So the process that we offer, the support that we offer, that sort of goes up over and above if you just sort of applied to an internship, you know, on your own, is that the topics are defined by the companies. We sort of contact them every year. We've got some quite long-term partnerships on our different programs. And we make sure there is a project coordinator on each program that makes sure that the sort of work that you're being offered to do is appropriate both in terms of length and in terms of level for your course. We also do offer a support structure that if you want to organise your own internship, then you can do so. And we are able to, you know, we have the experience to liaise with that company and, you know, make sure again that the work that you're going to be doing is appropriate for your program. We will also allocate you an UCL supervisor, and that ensures that over and above the technical work that you will be doing, then, you know, you will have the academic support to allow you to write about that in a sort of a way that allows us to market. So, you know, help with structure and referencing and all that sort of thing. And you also have the opportunity. So this is sort of me here talking about our IXN program because it always does generate quite a lot of interest in our open days. But, you know, as Steve said, we have some really world-class researchers in the department. And for some students, you know, the opportunity to work with one of our researchers, one of our academics on their project is actually really attractive as well. So for students, you know, whilst we're very proud of our IXN program, we think it's something that, you know, is really effective. We also don't want to detract from the fact that you can also do a research intensive project with one of our researchers who, as Steve says, are, you know, world leaders. So here are some of our partners that we have worked with over the years. You can see some really, really big names on there, but we also work with a lot of fintechs. Well, I'm on the finance side. We also work with a lot of fintechs, a lot of startups, SMEs. You know, it's too many really to put on a single slide. So, you know, there will be the opportunity if you prefer although we're, you know, proud of partnerships with our big names, if you do prefer working in a slightly sort of smaller, more sort of smaller, more sort of fast-paced environment, if you like, then that opportunity is there as well. And so the outcomes, you will need to produce a piece of work, which is the dissertation, which is about 50 words. You'll also have the opportunity to take part in sort of student showcases where you actually get to show off the work that you've done to industry partners. And we've got a few pictures from that on this slide. And sometimes the projects do lead to hiring opportunities. We have seen students hired directly out of their projects. And so that really brings me to the end. And I think I hand over now to Marco, who's going to talk about talk a bit more about sort of our industry connections.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Marco Piccionello, and I work in professional services, and I'm a member of the Strategic Alliances team at UCL Computer Science. The Strategic Alliances team is also shortened as SAT, S-A-T, is the team that within UCL CS supports the relationship with our external partners. So our external partners can be long-term existing ones that we've working for a long time with, or new ones that we are going to collaborate with. And partners can be large tech companies, charities, SMEs, or startups. To further your experience at UCL, the SAT team exploit those opportunities with industry for you that then can be further translated into the IXN student projects or other forms of collaboration. We also facilitate the conversation between our partners and other UCL departments and faculties, like the career services or other multidisciplinary engagement purposes. All of our means of collaboration with industry are summarized into one program, which is called the Friends of UCL Computer Science, which is a program that basically oversees and manages our collaboration with industry. And so therefore, our team really speak with the industry. Through adhering to this program, our partners can benefit from engaging with our very talented students, and as a consequence of our of that, our students can benefit also from engaging with industry. So apart from the already mentioned IXM project, this means that our students will be also able to connect and engage directly with industry leaders by attending one of our Friends of UCL Computer Science events that are scheduled throughout the year, by attending career events in industry, or connecting with our alumni. In fact, our students tend to keep in touch with UCL Computer Science also after they have graduated, and we run alumni dedicated events as they are willing to offer their time, and we would facilitate the connection with the students. For example, sometimes they would be willing to be guest speakers at our student events, or they'd be willing to hire students or to mentor students. We also regularly listen to our student communities with whom we meet sometime, and we also listen to our industry partners and alumni, and we have in fact established a committee through which we'll be able to continuously monitor and improve our engagement with our industry, and as a consequence for the benefit of our students. And that's it for me. I'm going to pass now to the teaching and learning team.
Thank you, Marco. I will just talk now and share some information about the common frequently asked questions that we receive regarding the admissions process. So you can find lots of answers to your frequently asked questions. If you scan this QR code, you'll find a link to the graduate admissions office pages. The prospectus pages will give full details for all entry requirements for all programmes, application fees, what is required in terms of references, the process of updating your application, what happens in terms of the status and the timeline for an offer, and further information about tuition fees and student visas. So the postgraduate prospectus pages will give you all the information required in terms of the entry requirements for the programme, the English language requirements, fees and funding, the application closing dates, which I will go on to give you a little more information on that in a moment. You'll also see some indicative module lists with links to the module catalogue. These are indicative, but they give you a sense of the modules which may be available on your programme. And then you can read a little bit more about the content in the module catalogue. And we also have some video presentations from the programme directors. So where they're available, they will be on the prospectus as well. And if there's not one there now, there will be one soon, hopefully. So keep checking back. So the application deadlines are listed on the prospectus page. It's different this year. We have 2 deadlines. Friday, the 5th of April, 5 p.m. UK time, for all applicants who require a visa. So they have the earlier deadline of 5th of April. And then for applicants who do not require a visa, the deadline is Friday, the 30th of August. We cannot accept any late applications, so please, if you are intending to apply, make sure you get your application submitted well ahead of these deadlines. Applications are considered on a rolling basis, so it may be that the applications will close sooner than advertised. So again, it's recommended to send an application in sooner rather than later. Some common questions that we have. So you can apply for a maximum of 2 graduate programmes for each year. And yes, the applications need to be to 2 different programmes. In terms of the personal statement, you have an option of completing it online within the application. There's a 3,000 character limit, or you can upload a document which should be no more than 2 sides of A4, but there may be specific information regarding the length of the personal statement on the prospectus page, so always follow that as well. You'll have these slides later when you have access to the recording, but there's some tips there about what to include in a personal statement. We don't interview for any of the MSc programmes in this department, so the admissions tutors make their decision based solely on your online submitted application. And at present, we don't offer any part-time study options. So that's something to bear in mind. It is a full-time programme. Also, the MSc Computer Science, for clarity, is a conversion programme. So that means it's not for those students who have previously studied computer science or information technology. In terms of what to include in your references, who makes a good referee, you do need to have 2 references, and at least one should be an academic or someone who has taught you at degree level. If you have been out of higher education, then you can of course have a professional reference. 2 academic is great, 1 academic, 1 professional is fine. If it's not possible to get an academic reference, then professional references will be accepted. It's important to note that we must have received references back by the 10th working day after the deadline, application deadline. So please ensure that we have received them. We do know that there are some issues with the references, and the Graduate Admissions Office are aware of issues with referees not being able to upload references, but they are working to fix that. So when you wait for a decision on your application, yes, it can be obviously it's a long wait. Sometimes we receive a very high number of applications. We aim to return your decision within 6 to 8 weeks, but at certain times it can take longer due to the high volume that we do receive. There's a couple more QR codes there, so you can find out about the process and what happens after you apply. So for those interested in what the timetable may look like, of course, we don't have the 24-25 timetable yet, but you can have a look at the current year's timetable. It doesn't work via mobile, I'm afraid, but if you access via laptop or desktop, you can then search by the degree programme name, and you'll see the timetable for this year, and you can alter the view, so you can look at the yearly view or the termly view or a weekly view to get a sense of what your timetable may look like. Of course, any the modules that you choose, your optional and elective modules, will mean that will differ, but you can get an overall sense. And for an example, we can see a week of the MSc Computer Science. So just to be aware that these MScs are full-time programs, it will be a full-time equivalent to working, so it's not advisable to take on this while working a full-time job, because you will need to be allowing time to attend the lectures, all of the teaching events, and complete the work on your own as well. So, okay, that's the end from me for this section. I will now hand over to my colleague Samantha, who will talk a little about scholarships. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. So yeah, hi, I'm Samantha, and I'm the Learning Technology Manager for Computer Science at UCL. And at the moment, I also happen to deal with the scholarships for our postgraduate programs. We do have a number of scholarships that we list on our department pages, two of which have very recently opened. The first here is our UCL Friends and Alumni Association Scholarship for Machine Learning, which is a bit of a mouthful, and it's open to applicants on one of our dedicated machine learning programs. So that's the MSc Computational Statistics and Machine Learning, Data Science and Machine Learning, and Machine Learning. And more specifically, it's for those who are also ordinarily a resident of the USA. Also, that's recently opened is the Snowden Masters Scholarship. It's not something that we or UCL offer, but we do have links because of the Global Disability Innovation Hub that's based at UCL East that Steve mentioned earlier. And they also host the MSc Disability Design and Innovation. This particular scholarship aims to promote excellent students who are considered disabled, to give them the opportunity to sort of grow, become visible role models, and try and drive sort of diversity and inclusion. Obviously, that's just a bit of a brief overview, and there is more information available on our scholarships webpage, and there'll be a link for that coming up shortly. So there are some other scholarships that you might be interested in, and I think I did see a question come up about the first one here, the DeepMind Scholarship. So we're sort of lucky enough to have a really good relationship with Google and DeepMind, being one of the small number of the institutions that benefit from their support of students. We are expecting it to run this year for 24-25. The agreement is currently being finalised and will be made available on our website as soon as that information is available. Because the applications are received and processed through a third party in the first instance, we aren't automatically made aware that you've applied. So if you do apply for the DeepMind Scholarship, what we would recommend is if you can email us at the scholarships address that's on the slide there, we can request from admissions that your deposit deadline is delayed. You can also let them know in advance directly to admissions through their online form to say that you're intending to apply if you have already submitted your application. So other scholarships and bursaries of note, we have the new India Excellence Scholarship, which is aimed specifically at students who are permanently domiciled in India, and the sort of funds themselves will be directly applied to your tuition fees. We also have the 2 scholarships that are specifically for master's students. So the Global Master's Scholarship is for those who are considered to have an overseas fee status. As noted, it goes towards your tuition fees. And then we have the sort of master's bursary, which is aimed at those who are considered home students. I know there's not a lot of information there, but if you sort of are interested in applying, do go and have a look at the central UCL web pages for these. Do make sure that you have a good read of the specifications for eligibility and how to apply. In the majority of cases, to apply for any of these scholarships, you would have had to have at least submitted an application for one of the UCL programs. And unless it specifies otherwise, holding an offer isn't normally a requirement for applying for the funding, but it is a requirement for accepting the award. So as mentioned previously, we do have a page on the computer science website specifically for our scholarships. It covers both our under and postgraduate programs. And if you're sort of navigating around our pages, it's under the study section where you'll find also all the program details. The page covers sort of all of the available scholarships, including opening and closing dates, what the funds are that are involved, and kind of how to apply. If you have any questions about our departmental scholarships, then please do email us at the address here. And if you have any queries about centrally managed or centrally advertised scholarships, then please do contact the Central Student Funding team at studentfunding@ucl.ac.uk. Our PGT programme administrators can also sort of refer you to other resources as well if you sort of get in touch with them through our admissions email. And that's everything from me. So thank you all for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of the event and good luck with your applications. I think we are moving to our alumni.
Thank you very much. So my name is Eden. I'm originally from Brighton and I studied the Artificial Intelligence for Biomedicine and Healthcare MSc last year. On the right-hand side there, you can see a couple of pictures from my time at UCL. I'm currently a PhD student at UCL, so I've continued to stay on, and my PhD is in Artificial Intelligence for Healthcare Systems. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how I ended up studying at UCL. So before my master's, I studied computer science at Queen Mary University London from 2016 to 2019. And then obviously 2019, 2020, people remember what happened, COVID. So unfortunately, just after I started work as a junior software developer at a small company working on IT management solutions for architects and engineers, I suddenly found myself working from home again, which was not amazing. However, I did really enjoy my time there. It really helped me strengthen my programming skills. I was promoted to a developer and then eventually a product manager of the company. However, as much as I really enjoyed that, I did want to go back to research, and I particularly had a really strong interest in artificial intelligence. During my time in my undergrad, I had a model in AI, which got me really interested in the particular subject area. So I wanted to find a master's course that would allow me to explore that further. So in 2022, I applied to UCL. Obviously, UCL is one of the best universities, not just in the country, but in the world, specifically as well, research in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And at the time, UCL was one of the only universities that I could find that offered an MSc that allowed me to specialize in a particular domain. I'd always be really interested in medicine, and I'd thought about being a doctor before applying for my undergraduate degree, but changed my mind. So this actually allowed me to combine both my interests in healthcare and AI into a single qualification, which was great. And it was the first time that was being run that year as well. So it was really exciting to be part of something new. Obviously, UCL is in the centre of London and offers loads of other different courses as well. So alongside the AI for Biomedicine Healthcare course, there was the Sustainable Development Artificial Intelligence course. And we shared a lot of our modules together and we got to know each other across the different cohorts, which was really great and a nice opportunity to meet people with slightly different backgrounds and interests. I also did loads of great socializing activities and there's loads of really great societies at UCL. And this was another big draw as to why I applied to UCL in the first place. I really recommend the pub quiz at UCL's bar on Wednesdays as well. That's a really great one for socializing and meeting new people. So despite having a few offers from a few other London universities, I felt that the diversity that UCL offered, as well as its strength in its research, was a best fit for me. And that's why I started my master's that I've just finished. So I finished that in September of last year, and I've now decided that my next step will be to pursue a PhD, which I've started now with the Institute of Health Informatics, and I can continue my research that I started during my master's last year. With some of the amazing people that I've been working with. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what my experience during the Masters was actually like. So first thing I'd say is the amazing high quality of the teaching, amazing lecturers with really great course content that really allow you to hit the ground running. Obviously, AI is an incredibly popular topic right now, both in the media as well as research, and having lecturers and lecture content that has really up-to-date information was really incredible, as well as a really wide range of different modules that were on offer. So for example, I selected bioinformatics and computational modeling for biomedical imaging for my elective modules in my second semester. Both were very different, but very informative. A different for various options like masters. For me, I really enjoyed the imaging module and anything to do with computer vision, and that's why I then decided to go and focus my summer project in a subject around that, and subsequently continue to do a PhD that also is in that subject area. I also had really notable lecturers. So as I said, really high quality content has to come great researchers. UCL obviously on the cutting edge of research, and Daniel Alexander, who was my biomedical imaging lecturer, actually has gone on to become my supervisor for my PhD. So you get to know your lecturers really well and become quite close colleagues, and they can really share their insight into possible future directions for you within the field. I also had fabulous support from my personal tutor, Janina, who also works at CMIC, and she was also able to advise on how to go about doing a PhD application, what sort of opportunities there were out there specifically in the Department of Computational Medical Imaging. And I also would finally say that I also had really amazing support from UCL outside of just the lecturers, also from the other staff. There was great personalized feedback on all of our assignments that we did, as well as great resources and guidance on the Moodle page, which if you do come to UCL, Moodle will be what you live and breathe. All of the lecture content is there, and any additional information is incredibly helpful. And finally, UCL also financially supported me as I was awarded a scholarship in computer science excellence before I started my master's, which again helped towards my tuition during my studies. So as I mentioned, I'm now doing a PhD, and one of the main things that really helped me decide that that was my career kind of path that I'd like to take was doing my dissertation during my master's, in which I focused on semi-supervised generative modeling. As we've just mentioned, with the AI Centre has now had a grant for further work into generative modeling, which is really exciting, as it's a really active area of research and really exciting to work with academics at UCL who are looking into that area. Once I knew I wanted to continue my research into a PhD, I had lots of talks with various guidance counsellors. There were some talks that they provided to us as MSc students, talking about the application process for PhDs, as well as support from lecturers who also were talking about the opportunities that they had in their subject areas and their areas of research. And then through that, I decided at Christmas last year that I wanted to apply to my PhD, which I'm doing now. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Finn.
Hi, thank you. My name's Finn. I studied last year a master's in computational finance. And before that, I did an economics degree in the University of Bristol and worked as a software engineer in a Web3 startup, focusing on numerical simulations. And my interest throughout my time in UCL and after is in decentralized finance, lending protocols, ownership of money. And I'm currently working in Mango Markets as a quant. So I kind of went down the industrial route after my degree here. So what is the teaching like at UCL? I would say that the lecturers are pretty much at the forefront of research, which makes for a really kind of unique experience when you're learning from them. Because I mean, I always kind of bring up this experience. You'll be researching a dissertation, and then you'll be looking through the citations, and then like half of the citations are actually your lecturers, and so you can just message and contact your lecturers to ask, oh, what about this specific paragraph? Or can you explain this concept a little bit more in detail? Which is a really lovely kind of moment. And the content is really clear and well constructed. The assignments are challenging. Many nights in libraries reading and trying to understand, which is kind of, you know, it seems terrible in the moment, but after it's actually quite nice, and you know, it makes you, you know, appreciate the work that you do. The lecture content is really updated and accessible in the newest kind of, you know, like I'm working in the industry just after learning about the industry from UCL, and I can say it's pretty much parallel, if not as up to date as you can be. The lecturers really care about your career path. You know, they listen to any questions that you have. I went to many different office meetings with my lecturers to speak about things during the topics that I was learning, and just kind of like talking about startup ideas or anything that you're passionate about, they'll probably be passionate about as well. They're responsive, listen, and are really attentive, and generally really high quality. Career support. At the end of my master's, I did a project with the International Swaps and the Derivatives Association set up by UCL as kind of the industrial placement that Carolyn was saying. And I worked there with some legal innovators in the derivative space, and it was a fantastic placement. It was like absolutely perfect for me as a person. I spent time in the office there, you know, getting to know people, being introduced to people in the industry, working with them, and working on research with them and introducing new ideas to them. And I got really lucky. One of the ideas that I introduced, I got published with them, alongside them. And these are contacts that I kind of still have, and I'll probably have for the rest of my life in the professional setting. And in my current job, so I left that a few months ago, and in my current job, I gave in my CV, and with my time in UCL and this placement in this derivatives company, they termed it a very impressive CV, which is kind of what you want after doing your master's. So it was really nice to have that. And then in the next 3 years, I hope to have my own startup. And if I do, I will very likely use UCL's Hatchery, which is an incubator that they have where they give you office space as well as support and mentoring and availability of grants and some really fantastic resources. So in general, that's been my experience at UCL. I think I'm handing over to Liz now.
Thank you, Finn. Thank you, Eden. Lovely to hear from our alumni. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to the question and answer section. Excuse me, and I will just share some slides. So we have been receiving lots of your questions in the chat, and we've been answering these as we've been moving along. So thank you, and hopefully we've been able to answer a good few of them. One general question that we had, which is a good question for all potential master's students, is the exact duration of the MSc. So all of the master's programs are for a full year. So you would begin in September, and then you would submit your project the following September. So term 1 and 2 are the teaching terms, and you would complete all your teaching on the 8 modules which form part of your program. And then in term 3, so from April to June, that's the main exam period. And then following that, you'll focus on working on your final project dissertation to be submitted in September. After that, you can expect your final results to be out at the end of November, December, and then graduation is the following year. So also another popular question is, what makes a good personal statement? What is good to include? And conversely, what's best not to include in the personal statement? So potentially, Steve, would you be able to speak a bit about what is good for a personal statement, what we're looking for?
Absolutely. So all our programs are very competitive. ultimately. And so what you're seeking to do with your application as a whole is stand out from the crowd. Now, we take into account a whole range of things as part of that. Yes, your attainment in your degree or your predicted degree results and the courses you've done and how well you've done on those courses, but also other aspects of your application, the personal statement being one of those aspects. In the personal statement, several things. First of all, make it personal, make it about you, because in the end, that will ring true. Make it about what you've done, what you hope to do, what your ambitions are, but also how you have gone above and beyond. So not just done, not just fallen off the end of a university degree, but how what you've done has gone beyond that in some way. It will differ for different people, but something that is likely to stand you out from the crowd. That's what we're looking for.
Great, thank you, Steve. And we have a couple of questions regarding the machine learning programs. So if Dimitri or Eddie could give a brief overview of the differences between the 3 machine learning programs that we offer.
Sure. Yeah, so the specific question was about the difference between DSML and ML program, but yeah, I guess I'll throw CSML into as well. So, so DSML, data science and machine learning, we think of it as a program which offers a slightly wider range of optionals and elective modules. And so as such, you could touch things like some models from the area of like various finance-related models, for example. On the other hand, CSML and ML have access to some of the most technical and most advanced models that we offer. Some of them are taught in conjunction with Gatsby units, and so they are only offered to CSMLs and MLers. So CSML and DSML, they're taught with Department of Statistics, and so you will see that one of the core modules for, well, it's a different core module for CSML and DSML, but they will have one of the compulsory modules offered by Department of Statistics. So yeah, this is these are the differences. So feel free to ask a follow-up question if that does not answer it.
Thank you, Dimitri. And a question for MSc Computer Science. So Rita, would you be able to address the question, this is a conversion course. The question asks if it's therefore more equivalent to undergraduate or if it's as in-depth a master's as the other programs. Would you be able to answer that, Rita, please? Or if anyone else is able to comment. Okay, I'm not sure if we have Rita. So the
Rita's got a problem with the microphone, apparently.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So MSc CS is intentionally a conversion course. So it's for students who do not have a background in computer science and are looking to transition into computer science. As a consequence, the courses that we offer are appropriate to that ambition. So we teach programming from the beginning. We do teach a range of other courses, but they have to be at the level that people can understand and can, provides challenge within computer science, but isn't necessarily at the same technical depth as our advanced master's courses. That said, what people bring to MSc Computer Science is a diversity of backgrounds. And for example, within the projects in MSc CS, they can be really very sophisticated because people bring another degree subject to the table in addition to the experience they've gained in computer science. So some of those projects can be very deep indeed.
Excellent, thank you, Steve. In terms of eligibility for programs, there are a couple of students asking if they will be eligible to apply for a particular program. For example, a second year MSc student wanting to apply and asking if we give preference to BSc students. So we receive a high number of applications from current undergraduates, mature students who are coming from work and industry, and those who have already studied a master's. So that doesn't preclude you applying. It's really down to that you meet the specific entry requirements and you have a strong application and motivation for studying the program here. So yeah, absolutely. If you meet the entry requirements, please do apply. Thank you. So we have questions about the possibility of working alongside one of our master's programs. Would someone be able to offer some advice as to whether or not that would be suitable, given that it is a full-time master's program?
Liz, maybe I can answer that one. Just because so hi everyone again, I'll turn my camera back on. Whoops, here we go. Oh, Zoom. There we go. Hi. So I definitely would not recommend working full-time alongside a master's. It's incredibly hard work and requires a lot of dedication and kind of independent study outside of your teaching, as well as any coursework that you've been set and any exam preparation. Having said that, I did work part-time during my master's. So I was working 1 day a week and I found that manageable. However, I would definitely not recommend doing anything more than that. And I was incredibly lucky that the company I was working with knew that I was studying, and they were very accommodating to the fact that they knew that I was working towards my master's. So I would definitely say if you can not work, then that would definitely be the ideal scenario. However, if you do have to, then 1 day a week is probably doable, but definitely nothing more than that.
Thanks, Eden. It's great to have that insight from a former student. Thank you. A question that's received a lot of upvotes. Steve, this may be good for you, but also please anyone else who has anything to offer. How has the global macroeconomic condition affected the graduates, especially those willing to enter into industry?
That's not a small question.
No.
There has been a macroeconomic slowdown. There's no doubt about that. But actually, computer science and technology, some of the tech companies were affected for a period of time. But actually, computer science and the tech industry are relatively resilient here, and are actually starting to bounce back now, as you can see from recent results. Technology and the development of technology and AI and things like that are the future here. And so over the even sort of medium term, there may well be short-term shocks, but over the medium term, then the prospects are truly excellent. There is and there will be a continuing trend of growth within the tech industry. That said, you've seen today results that say that our students, so UCL students, who tend to be in the top layer of graduates, actually do very well in terms of employment, even in situations where there are challenges within tech industry.
Great, thank you. So a question for one of the admissions tutors. Please do unmute and answer if you can. Given the high number of applications that we receive, the very competitive nature of all of our programs, what is it that you're looking for in an application? What makes an application strong? Diego, thank you.
Hello. I'm saying this even though our program is a bit young and all of that, but the key, I believe, is your fitness to the program. Like I'm the director for the systems engineering for the Internet of Things. This is a very heterogeneous kind of a master because it has to do with microcontrollers, it has a fair amount of programming, there is cloud computing, there is some machine learning and analytics you need to apply. And as such, we can take students from electrical engineering to software engineering to maths and physics. But when you get that application, say that I get 2 applicants from computer science, all above those eligibility criteria, but all of a sudden you start seeing this candidate who's been participating in local groups around microcontrollers, or who happen to build a system that would open the dog, like the door for his dog, and would report it to his phone, like these kind of things that really they show that you have like true interest in the program, and you know, like even if this second student, like the marks were a bit lower, I can truly see that that person is passionate about the program. I can truly see that that person taking part in our program, like we could really open lots of doors for that person. At the end of the day, you know, when you're forced to choose, and it's a hard thing to choose, you know, because you know on the other side there are people, and it's really nasty. But if you are to prioritize, you want to don't know, choose those people that you think you're gonna have like the most impact on their careers, on their development, and all of that. And I think, I don't know, to try and make that statement that they were saying it's just 2 pages, you know, but really try and show why you want to be with us, and how you're passionate about it. Because at the end of the day, we are maybe lucky and privileged that we get lots of very great students, like really great students, brilliant guys and girls, sorry. But I lost myself over there. So we are privileged that we get all of those great students, and being so limited, you need to get that fitting and stand out of the crowd. It's very worth it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Diego. That's really helpful. Just to recap in terms of the timeline, once you've submitted an application, we do try to return decisions 6 to 8 weeks after, once your application has, all the documents have been verified by the Graduate Admissions Office and we've received your references, then we aim to turn around in the department 6 to 8 weeks. It can take longer because there are a high volume of applications that the admissions tutors consider. So yeah, as soon as we have those decisions, we will get them back to you, and it is on a rolling basis. So yeah, you should continue to, if you've applied and you're waiting on a response, you should hopefully get something back soon. Regarding the MSc Machine Learning, but this could be applicable to all programs, but maybe Dimitri, if you could maybe answer this question. How common is it for research in the ML MSc project to be published, and are there any examples?
So certainly I can answer this question. It is not uncommon. It's definitely not something that, you know, happens for the majority or all of our research projects. But I think every year we do have a few that get published at a very prestigious conferences. So I believe that, say, from the last year's cohort, we definitely had one project presented at NOIRIP's workshop. So yeah, that happens, and I'm sure that ML programs are not unique in that.
Great, thank you, Dimitri.
There were also a couple of ML program related questions, and I tried typing my answers, but I had some issues with Zoom interface, it seems. So it's very hard for me to answer individual questions about like whether this or that would be a strong application. But one question that was there was whether it's worth applying for DSML with a degree in medicine. And I would say that at DSML, certainly in the past, we did have people with some with the background in non-maths, non-CS degrees. Certainly some coding proficiency would be very helpful, but it did happen in the past that we had people with say medical background.
Thank you, Dimitri. And I wonder if I might call on our alumni, Eden and Finn, maybe to give some insight into what the clubs and societies are like whilst at UCL. Do you have any thoughts or comments on what the student life in terms of clubs and societies may be like for any interested applicants?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share my perspective, and then maybe we can go to Finn afterwards to get his. So yeah, I'd say there's a huge range of different societies at UCL. It's almost any society that you can think of exists, which is great. So for example, a couple that I was a part of last year were the AI Society, which is kind of self-explanatory as to why I wanted to be a part of that, but that was fun. But also things that weren't to do with my degree topic. So I was part of the Classics Society as well. So we did some museum trips and went to a few talks and did some cool events as well. So that's one of the huge benefits I would say about going to university like UCL, is that you get the opportunity to be part of these really wide-ranging societies and make friends outside of just your master's classes as well, or whatever degree you are taking here. But yeah, definitely. Maybe over to Finn.
I would say I would completely agree with that. I was part of Poker Society, Board Game Society, Buddhist Society, as well as Mindfulness Society, and there's like easily 100, if not 200, different societies. I don't actually know the number, but it felt like that. It was just an amazing amount of things to do, and you could go on the website and see like every day each society would post, oh, we're hosting this event at this time in this room, and you can come and check it out. Or tasters, and so some days I would just go to 2 or 3 different tasters and jump between rooms and meet new people and have fun times. So yeah, it's like quite comprehensive.
That's great, thank you both. We had a question about are there any opportunities for teaching assistant roles to be taken on if you're a master's student? Is anyone able to offer any advice? Is it possible for a master's to become a teaching assistant, or is that more of a PhD role?
Well, I can address that. Theoretically, it is possible. I believe during summer, there will be some ads that they're requesting for postgraduate teaching assistant, basically. So you can apply, and if you get shortlisted, you will be interviewed, and once you get approved, you can basically you can start working as a TA. But your first priority should be focusing on the MSc. But in terms of practicality, I believe it is possible.
That's correct. So PGTAs are overwhelmingly research students, but we have in the past had taught students form TAs for some modules, but it's not strongly encouraged because we don't want to damage the chances of those students within their taught programs.
That's great, thank you. Right, we have a question. I don't know if anyone here will be able to answer this, or if this is something we need to go away and get some feedback on. would anybody be able to comment on the experience of students of Chinese origin or ethnicity in the context of current geopolitical tensions?
I can have a go. Clearly I am not a top Chinese student, and so I have no direct experience of this. But there are significant geopolitical tensions at the moment, a number of them around the world. And in fact, I was in a meeting earlier today about the conflict in Gaza and Israel. UCL as a whole, as an institution, does not take sides. And consequently, what it does instead is it tries to create an environment in which people can express opinions. So academic freedom, the freedom to hold and express opinions, even when those opinions can be difficult, is held to within UCL really very strongly. There are limits to this. So individuals, students, academics are free to hold opinions and to express those opinions within limits. So UCL is adamant that we will have an open debate about things. We will create an environment where if we disagree, we can disagree well here. And we do not tolerate racism or abuse or incitement or harassment or prejudice of any form. And there are a whole variety of mechanisms for reporting that, and we take it very seriously indeed. So I can't answer the specific question about the experience of Chinese students, but I can talk to the environment that we are trying to create, even in the context where there are really very significant and very deep differences of opinion and different experiences.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Steve. A question about what are the average cohort sizes per MSc? So we have, I think, 16 MSc programs, and the different programs will have different cohort sizes, so they do vary. And then we have between 500 to 600 master students over those 16 programs. So you will be joining a large external cohort, which is obviously exciting, and all the different disciplines offered throughout the different programs. So yes, and a question about roughly how many students would come into the MSc from industry and from a working background rather than straight from university. So again, we have a range of applicants who are coming from both from an undergraduate and both from coming from the world of work. So it's a very mixed group, obviously diverse in terms of different nationalities from across the world. So yeah, there's much to be excited about there. I think we have come to the end of the majority of the questions. I hope that we've been able to provide answers for a lot of them, and you have now some links that you can go away and find answers to any that possibly we didn't get around to responding to. So now really it's just to remind you and to wrap up on a couple of things. So we have a UCL East Open Day on Wednesday the 28th of Feb, which is UCL East in Stratford, which is home to the Robotics and AI, Systems Engineering for the Internet of Things, Disability Design and Innovation MSCs. So if you are interested and you're in the UK and able to, then please scan that QR code if you would like to attend. And tomorrow there's a robotics talk, which is leading research in postgraduate programs in robotics, with speakers on that. If that's of interest to you, please scan the QR code and you can attend. And please do stay in touch with us at UCL Computer Science, so you can see all of our social media handles. You can find out what's happening, latest news, research information, and engineering faculty social media links are there as well. And on the previous slides, you'll also have contact details for the Graduate Admissions Office and for the Computer Science Teaching and Learning team. For your questions, you can also find our contact email on all of the prospectus pages. And just before you go, we'd really appreciate if you could complete this short survey so that we can understand how you experienced the event today. And I'll just say thank you for attending. I'm going to hand back to Steve, but thanks to all of our speakers, and I will end this now. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Again, can I echo that? Thank you very much for attending. We've got through quite a lot of questions, more than 100 questions answered, and if there are any remaining, then we'll seek to answer those too. I'd like to thank the panel, and in particular our alumni, Eden and Finn. Diego said something, our students are fantastic, and they truly are fantastic. And one of the joys of being head of department is being able to see and experience interactions with students from right across all of our programs. They are amazing people, and they are going to change the world. Computer science is at the heart of the future. Things are going to change. We are in the middle of a revolution. In studying computer science, in on all of its richness, UCL is a great place to do that. Come to UCL, you will be taught by the leading experts in the world. We have a rich environment. We have an environment where we have strong links with industry. We have encouragement to pursue research ideas. It's a very, very powerful environment, and a UCL education will stay with you for the rest of your lives. So on that, thanks for coming again, and I hope to see you at UCL.